This year is 21XX and Earth is burning, while a mysterious man rides a jet over the ruins. His target finally located, descending like a meteor upon the desolate streets, where a lone survivor catches his breath, desperately running and calling out for help, his voice echoing with pure terror because a hulking beast has just appeared, and a second reptilian creature joins the hunt. Thrown to the ground, he can only beg for his life, willing to accept help from anyone. Clutching a shattered photo of his lost family, remembering the monsters that destroyed his world, and he makes a desperate vow for vengeance, just as a flash of light descends to answer his plea. Exhausted, Survivor 16 apologizes for the delay, looking up at a powerful, white-haired man who has arrived. This hero's gaze is cold and unwavering. Overwhelmed with relief, the survivor breaks down in tears, believing humanity finally has a chance to reclaim their world. This white-haired man places a comforting hand on his shoulder, telling him his fight is over and he can finally rest. And with his last breath, the man whispers his gratitude before collapsing lifelessly on the ground. His savior stands silently over the fallen man when a man named Kagura contacts him via comms, revealing this was the last survivor in the entire zone. Kagura urges Jin to accept their grim reality, but the truth is stark and horrifying: humanity is finished. This world was lost to monsters born from pollution and mutation. A new threat is introduced: the monstrous corruptors. These creatures possess terrifying regenerative abilities, rendering even humanity's most powerful weapons useless. So humanity turned to desperate measures, even human experiments. But the scientist laments their solution came too late, with no one left to save from the devastation, yet his companion insists there is still someone to save. Though he clarifies he does not mean current survivors, revealing his true goal is to save the future. He brings up the scientists' nanomachines and their purpose, which not only stop the corruptor's regeneration, but also begin to heal the ravaged planet, envisioning a world restored to its former beauty, allowing a new civilization to rise from the ashes. To the weary scientist, it sounds like an impossible dream. This researcher accepts the dangerous possibility, watching the man walk away. But for the silver-haired man, that tiny possibility is everything. A memory surfaces of a sterile hallway, the origin of his power. In the past, he prepared the man in a stasis tube for a future need, believing this one long shot was the only hope to save the world. His mission was to keep that possibility alive, activating cold sleep. And time flashes forward to a desolate world overrun by monsters. Kaiju-like beasts now dominate the scorched, alien landscape. This planet itself a dying red husk in the void as a counter ticks on. While down on the surface, towering creatures stalk the city ruins. This year's past, the creatures evolving and adapting to their new world. Until after an immense passage of time, the planet begins to heal itself, though a new ecosystem of powerful beasts now thrives across the land. Strange and twisted life reclaiming the wilderness in a new age. Until finally, after eons, even these great beasts turn to dust on the shore. Time flows on, the planet now fully restored, and life returns in a lush new world. After a billion years, a system finally awakens. Deep inside ancient ruins, a girl runs for her life, her breath catching in her throat with sheer panic. As a monstrous beast closes in on her and her friends, she cries out, realizing who they are running towards. But her companion insists it is their only chance for survival. Stealing her resolve, she clutches a strange key. Focused on reaching the legendary guardian god, who is said to be sealed behind this very wall. Suddenly, a voice calls out from the other side, echoing down from behind a massive gate, and she looks up, her heart pounding with anticipation, just as the beast corners them, leaving no escape. A young girl pleads for help from behind a cage, her desperate cries echoing for their guardian god. From the darkness, a voice answers as glass shatters, and a brilliant light descends to answer their prayer, their faith rewarded as the shadowy threat vanishes. From the broken stasis pod, someone steps out, revealing Jin awakened in a distant future, finding a storage case left for him by Kagura. This monitors confirm an unbelievable truth: 100 million years have passed, and though most data is corrupted, the facility miraculously survived, all thanks to the nanomachines dispersed long ago. Now he must rely on the mission data Kagura left behind. But first he turns to his unexpected audience, completely unfazed after his 100-million-year slumber. His hand clenches, feeling ready for the world ahead. Jin awakens, finally looking as he was always meant to, as the great doors of his stasis chamber grind open, revealing a blinding light and a group of strange, new inhabitants. His eyes take in this unfamiliar world for the first time. A planet reborn after 100 million years. To these new people, he is nothing less than a guardian god, and a young girl urges him to follow them into the forest. His mind races with questions about this new civilization, while she wonders if he is truly human, a species long thought extinct, or perhaps a new creature that evolved to resemble them. This nanomachines must have influenced their evolution, explaining why they speak a language from a forgotten era. He introduces himself simply as Jin, and the girl replies she is Hakama Phil, while her companions are named Danpo and Shandy. Jin asks what they want, but Phil simply says they are almost there. This young girl asks him to defeat the corruptor, a name that sends her companion into a panic because their entire village is engulfed in flames. His children sprint toward the chaos, screaming for their parents, while Jin silently observes the unfolding tragedy. He takes note of the simple wooden barricades and the primitive buildings burning around them, realizing this civilization is not very advanced. Suddenly, the girl freezes in horror at what she sees, an elderly woman battling a monstrous creature. Their grandmother screams at them for returning to the danger, and Jin finally lays eyes on the so-called corruptor. It is the same kind of beast from his own era, but the girl refuses to flee, her body glowing with power. A strange reaction that prompts Jin to investigate. In a flash, Jin intercepts the monster's attack, scooping the old woman into his arms to save her. Then he tells Phil to unleash her power. This girl focuses her energy into a blazing sphere, launching the fireball directly at the beast, which strikes its target with explosive force. Jin confirms the nanomachines have stopped its regeneration, wondering how she can control them without compatibility. He asks if this power is common, but she says it is rare. This holy power is what they call nanomachine control. Phil rushes over, relieved to hear the others were evacuated, but her grandmother demands to know why they returned. She declares with grim finality that their village is lost because the creature they just defeated was nothing, merely a newborn larva. This grandmother realizes the main corruptor is beyond their power, and soon hordes of its spawn will swarm the village. But a young warrior tells her not to lose her nerve. He confidently declares he will slaughter the smaller beast himself, while another villager confirms everyone else is in the shelter. This man turns to Hakama asking where she'd gone, and her grandmother scolds her for visiting the forbidden sealed door. Hakama explains to Jin she was following a legend about a savior, leaving the old woman staring at him in utter disbelief, because in her eyes he looks nothing like a god. This arrogant young warrior scoffs at the very idea, calling Jin a lesser species and laughing at their faith, though a small child runs up insisting he is their guardian god. This warrior points to Jin's ears, mocking his lack of animal traits, but Hakama retorts that their god has already defeated a corruptor. A new warrior scoffs at the threat, boasting he could handle it easily, but Jin steps forward, his expression deadly serious. This warrior rejects his help, calling him an outsider from a lesser species, demanding Jin stay out of their village's business. He announces his plan to kill the huge corruptor alone, ordering the others to just watch from the sidelines. This grandmother calls him a fool for rushing to his death, while Jin simply watches the drama unfold. She turns to Jin, pleading for him to take the children to safety, but Phil declares she is going after the warrior herself. Jin immediately refuses to be their escort, shocking the old woman. As Phil insists she has to go, her pride on the line, he clarifies he cannot let that punk die after insulting him, just as a colossal beast emerges from the water, its massive armored form rising to meet them. A young warrior calls out to a monster in the water, declaring his destiny is to become a holy knight, and a corruptor like this is no match for him, so he leaps forward, ready to take it down alone. But from the depths, a far greater threat emerges, launching smaller spawn to intercept the attacker. And suddenly the young fighter is completely surrounded, forcing him to carve a path through the horde. He refocuses on his original target, vowing one final blow, hurling his electrified spear with all his might, a direct strike right through the creature's head. With a confident smirk, he lands his devastating attack, leaving the beast impaled and writhing in agony. Yet the fatal wound begins to sizzle and close, and he turns in disbelief as it starts to regenerate. Its wound fully healed, the monster brings its claw down on the warrior, who freezes in shock as the attack is suddenly stopped. A glowing barrier appears as Jin casually holds back the massive claw, leaving the young warrior staring back in utter disbelief. With a swift kick, Jin sends the creature tumbling away, noting that the other corruptors are still a threat. He raises a single finger, preparing a new attack, and a colossal beam of light descends upon the main beast. This young fighter calls out, urging his grandmother to safety, just as other villagers rush toward the chaos. His grandmother and the others can only watch in disbelief, completely unable to comprehend what is happening. Before them, Jin holds the enormous corruptor aloft with one hand, casually remarking that it is getting heavy and they need to fall back. Without waiting for an answer, he grabs the warrior and pulls him to safety. Just in time, Jin intercepts the beast's attack, catching the arrogant warrior before he is crushed, leaving the young fighter to question who this man truly is. He explains the corruptor's terrifying ability to regenerate and that only nanomachines can stop the healing process. This boy realizes this is what they call holy power, but Jin points out his spear strike was far too shallow. Humbled, the warrior asks if he is their guardian god, a title Jin denies. Then he stands over him with one last thing to say, reminding the kid of his arrogant claim about the village's problem. As the boy tries to justify himself, Jin cuts him off, declaring this fight is now his own personal problem. This colossal corruptor roars, accepting the challenge, so Jin charges across the water to meet it head-on, his first objective clear: to pin the monster down. Jin dodges a massive claw swipe with impossible speed, as the corruptor roars, still reeling from the last attack, and the young warrior realizes these monsters are a product of their own folly. Jin's fist crackles with overwhelming power, accepting he is a relic from the same era as the beasts, and vowing he is the one who must end this. This defeated warrior can only watch, his pride shattered, while Jin recalls humanity's long history of creating weapons. A species defined by its endless, brutal conflicts, their scientific progress built upon a bloody past, a legacy filled with unthinkable tragedy. As their final human, he unleashes his full power, striking the beast with a devastating beam of energy, a torrent of light that tears through the darkness, completely disintegrating the monster before their stunned eyes. This villagers watch in stunned silence, while Hakama Phil's eyes fill with pure adoration. As a colossal beam of energy descends from orbit, striking the water's surface with immense power, This once arrogant warrior is frozen in utter disbelief, seeing Jin calmly reveal their final scientific weapon, a devastating relic from his long-forgotten era. With the threat now neutralized, he surveys the scene. But unbeknownst to him, a scout was investigating the corruptor, witnessing a power far beyond her holy knights. This changes everything. She must return to the capital and immediately inform the guildmaster of what she has seen. Later that night, a pre-recorded message begins to play for Jin. A final word from Kagura, who is long gone, who could not resist making one last terrible joke. Kagura's message asks about the future, hoping the world has healed. But his recording gets straight to the point. There is a problem. Even with a recovered environment, the corruptors would never die out, and Jin listens intently to the grim warning from the past. This scientist explains he noticed something wrong 1,000 years later, waking from cold sleep to observe the world's slow changes. At first, as the planet recovered, corruptor numbers dwindled, a satellite confirming their decline from high above, until a new intelligent type of monster was detected. This evolved being was far more dangerous than the last, a new breed of corruptor adapted to the changed world. Kagura admits their abilities are an unknown, terrifying threat. So his only solution was to empower the new lifeforms to fight back, and to leave a final gift of power just for Jin. Holding a glowing cube, Jin questions what this power truly is. Kagura's message reveals a glowing syringe. He explains the nanomachines will guide Jin on how to use it, a power only Jin can wield after his body was made fully compatible. Jin stares at his own hands, feeling the energy within them, and from a swirl of light, a knife materializes in his palm. A handy trick letting him generate objects from the nanomachines. Kagura's hologram reveals he hid more power-ups in labs across the globe, scattering them so the corruptors could not wipe everything out at once. But there was another reason he wanted Jin to see the world. This scene shifts to travelers near a waterfall as the message ponders the future threats, while a young woman runs through the woods, believing this new world is a far better place. A peaceful town where life seems to carry on, and where the scout from before now studies, awaiting new orders. Kagura's message wishes him well in this new world, but the hologram flickers, showing him aging rapidly. His last words from a man who will not see the future. Jin watches the message fade away in silence, a final request to protect this world and himself. Just then, Hakama and the old man rush over, calling him their god, explaining that the entire village has been searching for him. They pull him along, insisting the celebration cannot start without its star, but his eyes lock onto something unexpected, a familiar key-shaped pendant around Hakama's neck. He asks her where she found the lab's access key, and she explains it is a family heirloom passed down for generations, a charm meant to summon their guardian god to the village. As they lead him back, the old man thanks him for his help, arriving to a massive celebration held in his honor. These villagers are called over to the bonfire, where they finally see the man they now call their guardian god. Jin internally mocks the title, still seeing them as lesser, while the other warriors laugh at their defeated friend. Hearing the commotion, Jin glances back. A villager stands up, reminding them they all ran away, and even the once arrogant warrior now sings his praises. Just as the village elder approaches him, she offers a formal thanks on behalf of the entire village, insisting they must repay the debt for saving their lives. With a calm smile, Jin dismisses their offer, but if they insist, he asks for information instead. He wants to learn about the current state of the world, so the elder advises him to head for the royal capital, a place where the king rules and knowledge from all over converges. She explains villagers travel to the capital to sell their specialty goods, and though the road is harsh, Jin admits he does not know the way. So the elder offers Hakama as his guide for the journey. Hakama has her own business there, hoping to join the Holy Power Academy, a plan that surprises Jin, who is suddenly cut off, as the arrogant warrior Sauls volunteers to be the guide instead. He proudly declares his goal is to join the Holy Knights, but the elder mocks him for failing to even enter the academy. Apparently, holy power is not enough to get in. There is a written exam, one that Sauls, being an idiot, completely failed. Jin's interest is piqued by the mention of these holy knights. Meanwhile, a knight in blue armor learns the corruptor has been defeated, a report confirmed by the scout on her way to the guildmaster. He'd rushed over, never imagining the beast would be taken down so quickly, leaving the scout stunned to meet a holy knight in such a remote area. A woman in red laughs about a strange coincidence as a monster looms, but a blonde knight suddenly intervenes with a powerful slash, felling the beast and considering the woman's story with interest. Her tale convinces him he must meet this mysterious person himself. Meanwhile, back in the village, a peaceful morning begins. Jin awakens, savoring the fresh air of this new world, a beautiful sight he never thought he would live to see, wishing his old friend Kagura could have witnessed it too. Hakama approaches, still in awe of their guardian god, offering him a fresh set of clothes for his journey. Dressed for travel, they finally set out on the road, as the elder instructs Hakama to fulfill her duty as his guide. This once arrogant warrior grumbles, jealous of her opportunity, but Jin turns to him with a rare compliment on his fighting skills, promising to wait for the young warrior in the royal capital. These villagers say their goodbyes, asking Jin to protect Hakama, while her father tells her to stay healthy on her journey. With a final wave to the cheering crowd, they set off, and Hakama eagerly leads the way down the path. Their long trek takes them through the vibrant, recovering world, stopping for a moment by a stunning waterfall at dusk. As they continue, she excitedly points toward the road ahead. That night by the fire, she asks how far the capital is, and Jin confirms it is only a few more days on foot. Curious, Hakama then asks why he wants to learn about the world, but he cryptically calls it a secret. His mind drifts back to Kagura's grim warning. A reminder that corruptors still exist in this era, yet they were supposed to thrive only in pollution, meaning something about them has fundamentally changed. Hakama notices Jin's grim expression by the fire, but he is just relieved to see humanity has survived in this era. His new goal is to learn how they deal with corruptors, and when she asks his name, he tells her to just call him Jin. Suddenly, the sound of galloping horses breaks the silence, putting both of them on high alert by the campfire. A knight on horseback apologizes for the interruption, arriving with his squad and asking for a moment of their time. This leader of the group has a piercing, intense gaze, prompting Jin to coolly ask who he is. He introduces himself as Argus Wilton, a holy knight captain, and Jin realizes these are the famed warriors of this world. One of Argus's subordinates glares with pure rage, furious at Jin's casual attitude toward her captain. Argus, however, calmly tells her to stand down. Argus politely asks for a moment of their time, but Jin remains on guard as the captain apologizes for his subordinate. This knight then demands to know their origin and destination, and Hakama nervously explains their journey from Kodama village. A cruel smirk crosses the subordinate's face, sensing a trap. Leaping from her horse, she declares she has found her targets, accusing them of lying since no lesser species are recorded there. This revelation about strict birth records catches Jin off guard, but Argus immediately shuts his subordinate down. He points out Hakama's clothes are a known specialty from that village, a rare fabric that proves her story is true, stunning the angry knight, yet Argus's hand tightens on his weapon. His attention now shifts entirely to Jin, questioning the strange, unfamiliar clothes our boy is wearing, revealing bandits have been using children to attack travelers on this very road. This holy knight warns that some things feign helplessness before they strike, and though Hakama insists they are innocent, Argus says he will be the judge, leaving her powerless against his authority, gritting her teeth in frustration. In a desperate move, Hakama unleashes a surge of holy power, a display Jin observes with a cool, calculating gaze, prompting the other knights to summon energy lances as a warning. Her power surprises them, noting she has promising potential. But Jin is more interested in the strength of these so-called holy knights. Argus's focus snaps back to Jin, sensing his opponent is strong, demanding to know where he came from with his blade leveled. His answer will determine whether he lives or dies right here. Jin's gaze remains utterly unfazed by the lethal threat. As the knight repeats his question, his sword unwavering, once again vowing to execute him on the spot. But Jin simply stares back, completely unimpressed. Jin's cold gaze meets the captain's, while Argus stares back with equal intensity. Calmly, our boy says he is from Kodama village. This claim infuriates the female knight, who calls it a lie, but Argus accepts his story without question. Another knight turns to Hakama for confirmation, and she proudly introduces Jin as their guardian god. This new title catches the captain's attention. With the questioning over, Argus prepares to leave, apologizing for his subordinate's rudeness. He learns Jin is also bound for the capital, offering future assistance as a way to make amends. As the holy knights turn to depart, his subordinate seethes, leaving Jin with a faint, unreadable smile. This squad rides off as Hakama wonders why he backed down. This furious knight calls Jin a suspicious lesser species, a phrase Argus quietly repeats to himself before asking his subordinate who is truly the lesser one. To her shock, the elf knight Rhea agrees with their captain, calmly stating that he is not entirely wrong. Jin breaks the tension, asking if Argus sensed his power, and the captain admits he tried to make a move 3 times. In a mental replay, Argus had his sword ready to strike, his hand gripping the hilt with immense pressure, but Jin's own hand was already glowing with energy. This captain explains Jin reacted before he could even start, confirming for Rhea that he even tried to use his holy power. His subordinate is stunned he could not even activate it, and Argus adds he tried the same on Hakama, but the spirits refused him, a revelation that leaves both knights speechless. Argus explains the massive gap in their holy power, a level of strength only the Grand Captain could match, leaving his subordinates completely stunned by the revelation. This furious knight admits she sensed nothing at all, but he reassures her that Jin was simply on another level. This squad now suspects Jin dealt with the Kodama corruptor, yet Argus decides to let him roam free for now. Their own mission to the capital takes priority, and he lectures his subordinate to judge character, not power. As the title Guardian God echoes in his mind, this captain wonders if this powerful being could become an ally, perhaps even helping solve the kingdom's greatest problems. Meanwhile, Hakama calls Argus a special kind of knight, explaining he is one of the best among the elite. And she praises Jin's spirit arts, a term he does not recognize. Hakama explains holy power is just borrowing strength from spirits, and Jin realizes they are mistaking his nanomachines for these spirits. In this strange new era, science is indistinguishable from fantasy. This knight's insult about lesser species echoes in his mind, prompting him to ask Hakama what the term actually means. He wonders if many different races exist in this world now. And she confirms there are, from fish-like to insected beings. Long ago, her grandmother said people were confined to small areas, their bodies slowly changing to adapt to their new homes. Jin understands it was a matter of environmental adaptation, meaning humanity survived and evolved into these new forms. He then asks about those who did not adapt, the so-called lesser species. Those who could not change were left behind, seen as inferior. A dark realization that this prejudice has led to slavery. but Hakama insists it is wrong to treat anyone poorly for being different. Jin observes that everyone in this era is messed up, but offers Hakama a rare, reassuring compliment. Their journey is interrupted by a figure stumbling down the road, a sight that puts both of them on alert. A blue-haired traveler collapses in front of them, prompting Hakama to rush over in concern. Jin, however, remains cautious and observant. Taking in the stranger's bruised and battered state, his eyes lock onto their distinct pointed ears. Realizing this person is not human, he notes the injuries look severe. While Hakama tries to help the wounded traveler, Jin decides to intervene, summoning his healing energy, which causes the stranger's eyes to fly open in shock. This traveler suddenly shouts for him to stop. A new foe holds Hakama hostage with a blade, threatening to end her if Jin takes a single step. Our boy calmly takes in the situation, but the captor realizes they have walked right into a trap. Jin knows the real enemies must be nearby. As an invisible assailant approaches on the path, this bandit leader materializes, praising his subordinate's work, revealing his crew used a stealth camouflage technique. This nanomachine function renders the user transparent, and now the bandits surround Jin, questioning his origin. This leader presses a blade to Jin's throat, warning him not to move, reminding him that Hakama's life is on the line. Suddenly, Hakama's hand begins to glow with holy power, and Jin screams her name in alarm, leaving her terrified but ready to fight back. This bandit leader warns Jin that his power is not meant for people, while Hakama watches the confrontation in absolute terror, and the captor gloats, surprised Jin also has holy power, prompting another bandit to step forward, questioning his abilities. A brute tries to grab Jin, underestimating his opponent, but our boy is easily pinned, mocked as a lesser species. This leader quickly orders his man not to damage the merchandise, revealing they believe Hakama is the one with valuable holy power. In a flash of horror, she realizes these are not just bandits, they are slave traders, and their leader unleashes a stunning attack. She feels the paralyzing energy, knowing she is about to be sold. Sometime later, Jin's voice cuts through the darkness, waking Hakama from her forced slumber with a start. He calmly asks if she is okay in their new dark surroundings. As they find themselves locked inside a cage, Jin realizes they have been taken to the bandits' base, a prison where all their victims are caged. Inside the cells, other prisoners look broken and defeated, including a terrified girl from another race. Hakama sits in the same cell as Jin, staring at him. She asks why he is shirtless, and he explains they took his clothes. His casual response about being naked only confuses her. So she asks the real question, why did not he fight back? She knows he could have easily defeated their captors, but our boy remains silent as their captors finally appear. This two of them watch as the bandits approach their cell, and the decoy from the road approaches with food, noting they are awake. Furious, Hakama confronts her betrayer, who shows no remorse, stating she never expected forgiveness for her actions. This leaves Hakama seething with rage behind the bars. Jin, now in a cage, calls the blue-haired traveler kind, a comment that shocks her, questioning how scum could be kind. Our boy advises her not to worry about being hated or forgiven before standing up to address both her and Hakama, and with a firm grip he begins to bend the steel bars of his cell, leaving the traveler completely stunned by his raw power. Jin steps out effortlessly, having broken his confinement with ease, revealing he was waiting for her so they could speak alone. She immediately demands to know where they are keeping someone she cares for, and Jin reveals he deduced her situation already, his healing energy enveloping her as he notes her injuries were too real for a trap, noting that even bandits would not harm their own bait so severely. He knows she is only following orders because they have leverage over her, a realization that leaves the young traveler trembling in fear. Jin confirms her worst fears, they have taken her little brother. This traveler recalls slavers threatening to sell their brother, a cruel vow that would separate them for life. To protect their family, they had no other choice, explaining to Hakama why they joined the bandits. Jin's expression turns cold as he calls them scum, and Hakama realizes he let himself be captured for the boy, but Jin just compares them to stubborn oil stains. He explains that letting one escape allows them to regroup elsewhere, so when you wipe them out, you must be thorough. Suddenly, Jin kicks the cell door off its hinges, sending the guard flying across the room. Our boy declares that evil must be pulled out by the root, a harsh lesson he learned in a futuristic city. In his youth, he was just a bruised kid on the streets, once a believer in heroes and absolute justice. He remembers his past in a futuristic city, where he quickly learned a harsh truth: a world that supposedly needed justice was actually just overflowing with scum. An ordinary life was simply not an option, because his environment would never allow it, so he fought back, deciding to crush them, taking down anyone who stood in his way, no matter who they were, even those in positions of power, leaving a trail of broken bodies behind him, until one day a man approached him, offering a different perspective. He told the boy he was born in the wrong world, a memory that now fuels his every move. Two beast-like guards suddenly block the doorway, demanding he halt, but other slavers lie defeated on the floor, one slumped against a wall, asking how he even got in. Jin just offers them a cold, confident smile. In a flash, he hurls one of the guards into the air, leaving the second guard completely defenseless. His partner can only watch in absolute terror, as the slaver demands to know what he is. A single blow is all it takes to end the fight. A scream echoes through the prison, startling the other captives, and the blue-haired traveler recognizes that sound instantly. Asking Hakama just what her partner is, a guardian god. Hakama answers with complete faith, saying they will be fine. then tells everyone to follow Jin's plan and get outside. But the traveler knows the leader has immense holy power, believing brute force cannot win. This bandit leader pleads for his life, begging Jin to wait. While Jin calmly deals with another guard, asking what he wants, and the slaver gets a desperate, greedy idea. He points to a cage, offering up the children inside, promising Jin can have as many as he desires. Our boy's expression remains utterly cold and silent as the leader looks around at his already defeated crew. Terrified, he wonders what is happening to him, unable to activate his own spirit arts to defend himself, questioning the strange power that has him completely neutralized. Jin simply calls him a half-baked thug, noting that the real cowards always run when things go south. He says men like him always underestimate their targets, then immediately start groveling the second they lose, and just as predicted, the leader makes a desperate break for it. This bandit leader pulls a heavy lever, declaring this is not over. With a cruel smirk, he begins to open a massive gate, revealing a hulking demonic beast locked inside a cage. He calls it a corruptor, a special acquisition for this very moment, and the monster steps forward, its single eye glowing with malice. This leader grins, deciding on a new brutal plan, ordering his pet to completely destroy Jin. With a roar, the corruptor swings its massive arm down, a blur of motion meant to crush him instantly. But Jin's eyes glow with cold, unwavering resolve. He catches the devastating blow with just one hand, leaving the bandit leader utterly stunned by the sight. Our boy reveals he was born with a superhuman body, his muscle fibers far denser than any normal humans, and on top of that, he drives his fist deep into the beast's chest. Jin explains that against corruptors, he must use holy power, unleashing a massive beam that completely obliterates the beast, leaving the bandit leader speechless on the floor. This man realizes in horror that Jin also wields holy power, and our boy coldly asks him for his next move. Terrified, the bandit leader begins to stammer, desperately asking if he could just be allowed to walk away. A swift punch to the face is his only answer. With the leader dealt with, Jin calmly gets dressed, having successfully retrieved their stolen clothes. He then turns to the caged children, telling them to wait a bit longer as the traveler's little brother looks on with tearful hope. First, he needs to secure proof of their crimes, finding a strange key and a document in a box. And as he reads it, he senses something is deeply wrong. He finds a document covered in strange symbols, and with a confident smirk, he seems to understand it all, only to admit he cannot read a single word. Deciding to ask Hakama for lessons later, he turns his attention elsewhere, wondering what the bandits plan to do with a captured corruptor. To find answers, he places a hand on the beast's remains, accessing the nanomachines floating in the air, a system that should have stored up to a week of footage. As he reviews the data, a voice from the past speaks to a lord, questioning why they are capturing such a creature. But the cat-eared noble just offers a cryptic hint, promising something big is about to happen in the country. Jin absorbs this new, unsettling information, his investigation leading him to a nearby town where the freed children are now gathered safely. Back in town, the captured bandits are handed over to the authorities. When the blue-haired traveler suddenly gasps in surprise, as her little brother Nino runs towards her with a joyful cry. Overwhelmed with emotion, she rushes to embrace him, holding him close, just thankful he is finally safe. She turns to thank Jin, who humbly dismisses her praise, but our boy's attention shifts to the men handling the prisoners. Asking Hakama who they are, learning they are guild staff she summoned. Among them is the town's guildmaster, a horned man taking a report. His sharp eyes taking in the entire scene with a serious gaze, and Jin directly asks if he is the one in charge, which the man confirms. He introduces himself as Padrak, the guildmaster, with a formal thanks, yet his expression reveals a deeper assessment of the young man. Sensing that despite his appearance, Jin is far from ordinary, and with reports of so much damage, he knows this stranger is something else entirely. A horned guild official explains the local lord has no authority for captures, stating that dealing with such crimes is the job of the guild, sworn to the king, and even if the lord himself were a criminal, they would be duty-bound to report him. Jin quickly grasps the power dynamic. The lord is a mayor, the guild is the police, and the name Cheon brings to mind a smug, cat-like noble. Just then, the official presents a scroll recovered from the bandits, his eyes widening in shock as he reads its contents. A complete list of everyone who colluded with the slavers. This lord's name is conspicuously absent, leading Jin to call him a cunning villain. But his attention shifts to the freed siblings watching him, as he asks what will happen to them now. For orphans like these two, the official admits there is nothing the guild can do, prompting Jin to ask if there are any shelters available. This man grimly replies there are none, only the possibility of work. But as a lesser species, their chances of finding a job are slim. This term lesser species clearly bothers Jin, and he wants to help the siblings, but they have nowhere to go, until a sudden thought strikes him, asking the traveler if she knows of any place that would take them. With a confident smirk, he says he knows the perfect spot, thinking of a certain armored elf he knows. This scene shifts to the Grand Argus estate in the capital, where a blonde knight suddenly feels a strange premonition. His companion asks what is wrong, but he brushes it off as a sudden chill, completely unaware of the trouble heading his way. After dismounting, he tells his expedition team that is all for the day, instructing them to take their rest after a long journey. He strides into the lavish mansion, greeted by his staff, his maids and butlers all welcoming Sir Argus home. An older attendant immediately asks if anything was out of the ordinary on his trip. An elf-feared butler looks on with deep concern. While a blonde noble senses a disturbance has occurred, this butler approaches, offering an apology for the interruption, whispering a quiet, urgent report into his ear. As they walk away to discuss the matter privately, a woman watches their departure from a balcony above. After hearing the news, the noble dismisses his aide. Realizing the situation is far worse than he imagined, corruptors are now appearing in the capital itself, leading him to conclude someone must have let them in. His suspicion falls on Harnisk Academy, a place that refuses outsiders. While far away, Jin knows he will need allies for what is coming. 3 days after the raid, he travels with the freed siblings. When the young boy asks if he can truly find work, Jin reassures him certain his skills will land him a job. This blue-haired traveler encourages Jin with a confident smile, and Hakama spots their destination in the distance. Jin looks on as they finally approach the capital, a massive, sprawling metropolis laid out before them. Inside the walls, the streets are bustling with activity, this lively atmosphere amazing the younger children. Hakama explains the city is a major trade hub, a place where even her own village sells its specialties. Our boy observes the diverse population, including insect-like people, making the capital a true melting pot of cultures. This city appears prosperous with its clean streets, and public order seems well maintained among the citizens. But Jin knows that beneath the surface, problems always exist. His thoughts turn to the darkness hidden away from sight, a grim reality that persists through every era. Jin asks about the academy's entrance exam, learning it is next week. And as they walk off, a noblewoman questions their plan to enroll, her expression turning cold at the thought of a lesser species joining. Later that evening, the group arrives at a cozy inn, where the freed siblings celebrate their newfound safety, overjoyed to finally have a proper place to sleep. Now in the capital, Jin considers his next move, realizing he will need money to survive in this new era. This reward for defeating the bandits will not last forever. And he still needs to secure a future for the two children, thinking that meeting a certain knight would be the fastest path. But without connections, that option is currently closed. He decides to first research the corruptors of this era, especially since people are trying to exploit them for shady purposes, and he knows he cannot leave such a dangerous threat unchecked. Jin's expression is grim, his mind set on his mission, vowing this era will not suffer the same fate as his own. To start his research, he asks Hakama how people find information, and she explains books are rare but her village shared what they had. Then she remembers the capital has a library for research, a new lead that immediately piques Jin's interest. He sees it as a perfect place to find clues about Kagura's labs, but at the entrance the librarian denies them entry. These books are considered national property, not for public use, with access limited to nobles and academy members only. Jin then confronts a much bigger problem: he cannot even read yet. Though Hakama has been teaching him, he is still far from fluent, leaving him frustrated and seemingly out of options. Just then he spots two familiar hooded men in the crowd, and he immediately calls out to get their attention. A cat-eared man suddenly attacks Jin with a smug grin, but our boy catches the punch with effortless calm, sarcastically questioning the city's so-called public order. This attacker simply calls it a misunderstanding, his confidence unshaken. As Jin's grip tightens with a flash of brilliant energy, their power struggle erupting in the middle of the street. Onlooking citizens gasp in shock at the sudden display, while the cat-eared man compliments his opponent's sharp senses. Nearby, the freed siblings watch in horror as holy power is unleashed. His partner reveals their client considers Jin an eyesore, confirming for our boy that these thugs were hired. A slight smirk crosses his face since this saves him some time, and the attacker offers a simple choice: leave the capital or face danger. He then lunges forward with a menacing laugh, ready to escalate, only for his second punch to be stopped just as easily. Jin catches the man mid-fall, his grip like iron. A cry of agony escapes the man's lips. His companion retaliates, unleashing a fiery blast. This fireball hurtles directly toward a stoic Jin, engulfing him in a massive explosion of flames. This attacker smirks, believing his victory is assured, but a hand emerges from the smoke, grabbing his face. Completely unfazed by the powerful attack, he tells the man to come back when he is stronger, issuing a challenge if he dares to try again. This terrified man realizes Jin is no lesser species, when a voice suddenly commands them to stop the fight. As an armored woman expresses her annoyance at the disturbance, she threatens to throw every last one of them in a cell. But Jin reveals this was all a deliberate show. A dog-eared knight appears, pointing an accusing finger at Jin. In the middle of the street, she calls him a lesser species again, her face twisting into a condescending smirk. She accuses him of causing trouble the moment he arrived in the capital, mocking him for not knowing his place in the world. But a rabbit-eared witness steps forward to defend him, explaining that Jin was only acting in self-defense. From the ground, one of the defeated men recognizes the knight, who confirms they are students from Harnisk Academy. This news clearly frustrates her, hoping the lady is not involved, and she quickly orders the students to be taken away. Jin questions why a holy knight is on patrol, prompting her to claim she was just passing by while looking for food, yet her sharp gaze lingers on him for a moment, silently admitting to herself that he is incredibly strong. This knight warns him to avoid any more trouble in the capital, but Jin stops her, asking for a favor, leaving the armored woman completely bewildered by his request. Soon they arrive at the magnificent Argus estate, where Jin makes a direct and bold proposition to be hired. This blonde knight is stunned as Jin reminds him of his earlier offer of help, and he then notices the two children accompanying the group. Our boy explains he rescued them from the very bandits they were warned about, casually mentioning he dealt with the criminals himself. This revelation shocks the knight, who realizes Jin fought them all alone, and he then inquires about the siblings' circumstances, prompting Jin to state his goal is to find them a place to work. This dog-eared knight points out he has no obligation to them, but Jin declares he never does things by halves, a statement that leaves both knights speechless at his conviction. This freed siblings listen with hopeful expressions. As a noble knight offers them a home and work at his estate, but his generosity comes with a condition. He wants Jin to become an instructor. Soon after, the children are fitted in new uniforms, a sight that brings a rare smile to Jin's face. Overwhelmed with gratitude, the older sibling thanks Sir Argus, who then orders his staff to treat them without prejudice. With the children finally safe, the group departs, and Jin immediately questions Argus's ulterior motive. This knight admits he is taking a risk on a stranger, asking for a favor. He needs him to infiltrate Harnisk Academy. This shocking request leaves our boy speechless, prompting Argus to reveal the kingdom is in turmoil, as the king is dying and a shadow war for succession has begun. In the shadows, a secret council plots to seize the kingdom, using corruptors to sow chaos and ensnare innocent people. Jin realizes a corrupt lord is not the only enemy. Knowing dangerous forces are working from the capital's shadows, their suspicion immediately falls on Harnisk Academy, and the blonde knight knocks on a door ready to proceed. He opens the door, promising an inside guide for their investigation, introducing his sister Miria, a student at the academy. As the knight presents Jin, Miria looks on with surprise, her expression quickly turning to scorn at the plan. Angered, her brother immediately calls out her prejudice. But she insists such a critical mission is not for Jin. Our boy simply smirks at her biased attitude, while the dog-eared knight admits her friend's bias is severe. Miria then presses her brother, demanding he reconsider his choice. A noblewoman reveals the job has another duty, teaching. She scoffs, doubting a lesser species has the talent to instruct. When Hakama accidentally reveals Jin cannot even read, this news makes the noble dismiss him as unworthy of discussion. But Hakama passionately defends him, proclaiming his greatness. Jin and the noblewoman share a tense, silent stare. She eventually concedes he is strong enough to keep students in line, yet insists that raw power does not make a teacher. Later, a blonde knight looks on, completely exasperated. This dog-eared knight realizes Jin was the cause of the student incident, while her companion apologizes for their actions. Jin then asks what he would be teaching as an instructor, and the knight confirms it is his skill with spirit arts. His only task would be to teach the absolute basics, requiring mastery of just 2 of the 4 fundamental elements. Jin's simple question leaves the knight stunned by his confidence, who then asks if he also knows the rare special spirit arts, a skill reserved for only the most exceptional fighters of the era. Our boy just smirks, finding the challenge intriguing, and declares he is ready to shatter this world's common sense. 1 week later, the entrance exams begin at Harnisk Academy, where hopeful students line up to register for their tests, and inside, an applicant focuses intently on her written portion. Meanwhile, Jin and Argus are escorted down a grand hallway, greeted by an academy official who acknowledges the Holy Knight's busy schedule. Jin questions Argus about his role in this arrangement, learning a knight is sent annually as a special instructor. This official eyes Jin with clear skepticism, doubting his suitability, as our boy remains silent under the intense scrutiny, leaving the man to ponder his decision with visible unease. A cat-eared attendant leads them toward a large door, announcing that the headmaster is ready to see them. Inside, a stern-looking woman studies them from her desk. Argus greets the academy's leader with a formal bow, who recalls his impressive academic achievements. She expresses gratitude for his continued service to the kingdom, before admitting she has heard rumors about his recent activities, noting he is caught between fighting corruptors and political strife. This headmaster then turns her attention to the reason for their visit, her gaze sharp and analytical as she assesses the situation. Our boy stands silently under her intense scrutiny, a silent candidate for a very dangerous mission. Finally, Jin breaks the silence with a confident assurance, prompting Argus to vouch for his exceptional capabilities, especially when it comes to pure combat prowess. This headmaster reluctantly accepts the proposal for now, but a wolf-eared instructor immediately objects to the decision, declaring the prestigious academy has never hired a lesser species to teach. His fury erupts, accusing them of disgracing the school's name, prompting the headmaster to seek another lord's opinion. This cat-eared noble agrees, citing the students' noble backgrounds, and he warns of backlash from both students and faculty. With the council in agreement, the headmaster admits she feels the same, yet she turns to Jin, offering him a chance to speak. Our boy takes a confident step forward into the chamber, formally introducing himself as Jin Shido of Kodama Village. His composure impresses the headmaster, who notes his calm despite the insults, and Jin poses a sharp question about their prejudice, asking if he is unfit due to his race or a lack of ability. This headmaster smirks, confirming only ability matters in her academy. This academy official demands he prove his qualifications, so Argus proposes a test on the training grounds. A cat-eared instructor explains the campus is nearly empty for exams, smirking that they will not be publicly embarrassed. Jin remains completely unfazed by the condescending attitude, as the rules for the duel are laid out in the arena. A direct fight is the quickest way to judge his worth. Nearby, a group of students gathers, drawn by the mock battle, one of them noting she has never seen this instructor fight before. Our boy simply closes his eyes, dismissing the test as pointless. From the stands, a spectator scoffs at the lesser species, while Argus admits this is his first time seeing Jin fight for real. Such prejudice stems from a belief they are physically weak, and as his opponent asks if he is ready, Argus hopes he chose wisely. This instructor just grins, ready to begin the demonstration. This cat-eared instructor makes the first move, launching a fireball, but Jin effortlessly sidesteps the fiery explosion, leaving the onlooking students completely stunned. His opponent just grins, aware of the student audience, and gathers a powerful mix of fire and lightning, unleashing a storm of energy directly at Jin, all while mocking him for being a lesser species. He boasts about graduating at the top of this very academy, declaring himself far beyond what Jin's kind can handle. Our boy's expression, however, remains utterly bored. He admits he hates using this power on people, but concedes that in this case he has no choice. A strange, crackling blue energy gathers in his hand as he prepares to show a fraction of his true strength, and the very ground shatters under its immense pressure. Argus stares in utter disbelief at the display, while Miria watches the instructor collapse, defeated in an instant. This knight asks if Jin used gravity, a spirit art he has never seen, and our boy smirks, saying the academy has much to learn. He declares the instructors need a lesson just as much as the students. Standing over the crater, his power left in the training grounds, his furious opponent struggles against the invisible pressure, as Jin simply makes a casual hand gesture, slamming the instructor back into the cracked pavement. Enraged, the wolf-eared man screams, demanding to know what he did. He accuses Jin of using cheap tricks, refusing to believe it is a real art. But from the sidelines, the council members watch intently. For the headmaster and the noble, this display settles the matter. In the crowd, the students are left completely stunned by the outcome, where Miria realizes she just witnessed a rare special spirit art. Miria wonders how a lesser species possesses such holy power, her eyes narrowing with suspicion and confusion. While Jin calmly dismisses the fuming instructor's rage, 1 week later, the academy's entrance ceremony commences, filling its halls with students training to fight corruptors. The stakes are made clear. Failure means immediate expulsion, but the headmaster offers a grand promise to those who succeed, a chance to join the legendary ranks of the Holy Knights. From a balcony, Miria and other students observe the new faces, when a hand suddenly reaches out to her. A lion-eared noble greets her as Laius, surprised by her attendance. He suggests they network with the powerful new students, but his attention is suddenly drawn elsewhere, spotting Jin sitting among the academy's instructors. This revelation leaves the young noble utterly stunned. This lion-eared instructor is left speechless, while the noblewoman coldly reaffirms her prejudice. From a balcony, Jin observes the students below, realizing the sheer scale of his investigation. He feels their hostile stares, knowing he must first earn their respect. Otherwise, he will be too suspicious to investigate anything. Later, inside the Grand Academy halls, his first spirit arts class is about to begin. This rabbit-eared instructor warns the few attending students not to fall behind, but a smug grin reveals his true intent, mocking the nearly empty lecture hall. Even the noblewoman who attended looks utterly bored, revealing his own sabotage. This saboteur proudly admits to spreading the word about Jin's race. Now he mockingly invites Jin to introduce himself to the hostel room. Jin calmly introduces himself to the hostel room, announcing he will be their temporary spirit arts instructor. This lion-eared noble immediately challenges his authority, but Jin coolly replies that it is for them to decide. He tells them they are free to leave if they doubt him, before his tone shifts with a serious warning, demanding a promise before he teaches them anything. He explains spirit arts can stop a corruptor's regeneration, but the same power only leaves lasting wounds on people. This art was created solely to destroy corruptors, and he pleads with them not to misuse its power. A student immediately scoffs at the moral lesson. Another mocks him for trying to limit their abilities. They accuse him of being a weakling afraid of comparison, as the entire class joins in the condescending laughter. Jin remains completely unfazed by the hostility, issuing a direct challenge to the entire room, telling a wolf-eared student to use his strongest attack. He promises to leave forever if they can even injure him, and the arrogant student grins, accepting the provocation. Leaping from his seat, he summons a spear of golden energy, while the rabbit-eared instructor panics at the collateral damage. This student ignores him, unleashing his full power, hurling the massive energy spear straight at Jin. It slams into the ground with explosive force, leaving the attacker smirking in presumed victory. But from the smoke, a single shard of ice shoots forward, zipping past the student's head in a blur, and shatters the wall just behind him with immense power. Jin's eyes glow, coldly stating he was not even trying. Jin warns them that judging by appearance is a fatal mistake. This lion-eared noble stares in shock, questioning what he just witnessed. As Jin declares he is far stronger than any of them, and he poses a question about what they should call him now, giving them the only answer that matters: teacher. His first lesson begins with a simple question about spirit arts, which he directs to the student who attacked him earlier. And the flustered noble stammers that it is all about imagination, demonstrating the basic principle of shaping holy power. But Jin smirks, revealing that is not the true answer. Explaining it is about accepting an art's wavelength, a term that leaves the students completely baffled. So he begins listing the 8 basic types, starting with fire, followed by the crackling power of lightning and the gentle energy of healing. Jin begins his lecture on the 4 basic spirit arts, leaving the few students in attendance completely stunned. He then demonstrates advanced arts like gravity and light control, followed by air pressure manipulation and another skill, revealing his mastery over spatial shielding as well, which causes the wolf-eared instructor to erupt in disbelief. But Jin simply explains that imagination is the only limit, a confident smirk crossing his face as he officially begins his first class. Later, he walks the academy halls alone, his mind focused on the investigation ahead. He observes the students finding nothing obviously out of place, and decides to search more restricted areas. When his gaze suddenly locks onto a familiar face, meeting the intense stare of the noblewoman Miria confronts him directly, demanding to know what he truly is, admitting he is far from the lesser species she first assumed, because no one of his kind should be able to use all spirit arts. Jin simply repeats his lesson on switching wavelengths, but she is not buying it, arguing that if it were so easy, he would not be drawing so much attention. He suggests they move somewhere more private to continue their talk, leading them to a quiet, sunlit corridor, where Miria immediately presses him for the truth again. Jin gives a wild answer about sleeping for 100 million years, which she dismisses, so she turns the question around, asking what he did back then, and his demeanor shifts as he reveals he was an agent. Confused, she asks for clarification, so he explains his duty to his country, adding that he fought more scum than he could ever count. A flashback reveals his life 100 million years ago, a soldier planning missions with his comrades. A memory flashes of his past life as a soldier, a nostalgic smile crossing his face in the present. Miria asks why he was sealed, and he admits his failure. He confesses his arrogance, believing he could save everyone alone, but that pride led to a world overrun by monsters. Now he says he took this job because he might need her help, though she is doubtful, offering to act as her guide as they walk together. He leads her into a dark, forgotten room, explaining it is just a supply storeroom for teachers. Jin looks around, sensing something is off about the place, his gaze falling upon a strange owl statue on a shelf. His eyes narrow with sudden realization, but Miria reveals she has been investigating on her own, showing him a blueprint with a hidden room right next to them. Agreeing it is suspicious, Jin reaches for the owl. A hidden bookshelf slides open, revealing a dark passage, and Miria admits his hunch about this place was right. She asks how he could possibly know, so Jin points to a single, strangely clean spot on a dusty shelf. He tells her to wait, but she insists on coming with him, refusing to be underestimated even if a corruptor is inside. This noblewoman declares she is just as capable as her brother, earning a confident smile from Jin, who agrees to trust her. He leads the way down the stone steps, lighting the path with magic, descending deep into the academy's hidden underbelly. This ominous tunnel feels like something from a fantasy story, prompting Miria to ask about his experience fighting such evil and whether he has any suspects yet. Jin pauses, a thoughtful look on his face, before naming the wolf-eared instructor Lidman as his prime suspect. Miria recalls the headmaster's calm demeanor hiding a sharp mind, a man who warned Jin to conceal his true purpose. Initially, she believed Jin was the suspicious one, but now she thinks he is too transparent to be a threat. He leads her down a dark, underground passage, a vast hidden space that leaves her completely stunned. But then Jin freezes, sensing something ahead, his eyes widening in shock at an unbelievable discovery. Before them stands a massive vault door, one of Kagura's hidden research labs. A faint blue glow reveals its nanotech defenses, a revelation that leaves Miria utterly speechless. She asks if they can get inside, but Jin explains he has his own kind of access key as he reaches for the device on his collar. He realizes the access key must have been inherited by someone here, and if that is the case, he has his own way in. Placing his hand on the vault, he uses his own ancient authority, and the massive door rumbles, slowly grinding open, revealing a hidden chamber to the stunned pair where a monstrous corruptor is held captive. Miria stares in absolute horror at the sight, asking how he opened it without a key, but he just calls himself special. This word ancient finally sinks in for her, as she questions if his story about the past was actually true. Jin ignores her, walking past a caged reptilian beast, surveying a room filled with imprisoned monsters. But something feels deeply wrong about the scene, because none of the corruptors are trying to escape, all of them sitting docilely within their cages. Jin confronts a caged monstrosity, wondering how it was ever contained. At his side, Miria realizes her brother's suspicions were right all along. She suggests they simply wait for the mastermind to reveal themselves. But Jin immediately shuts that down, insisting they wipe out the corruptors first. Shocked, she asks if he'd just let the true culprit escape, until he points out the students would be the first to die in a rampage. He argues that even her brother would put the people's safety above all else. And though she agrees, Jin admits he has a very bad feeling. His instincts are screaming that this lab is the key to everything. He tells Milizes to find her brother and seal the academy, trusting her with the task. With their plan decided, Jin heads off on his own, his eyes drawn to a large, ornate clock on the wall. He moves through the building, searching for any clue about the conspiracy. This clock's intricate design seems to hold a hidden meaning, while elsewhere the academy instructors, including Mill, gather in the halls. In the halls, the wolf-eared teacher Gita seethes with rage, overhearing students mock his humiliating defeat by the new teacher. His reputation is in tatters and he blames the lesser species for it, vowing to expose Jin himself when someone approaches from behind. It is the headmaster telling Gita to stop creeping out the students and dismissing his strange behavior as a mere hobby. This headmaster then asks if he has seen Lord Lidman anywhere, but Gita realizes Lidman has been missing since the ceremony. This worries the headmaster, who needed to discuss classes with the instructor, when his gaze suddenly sharpens, sensing a disturbance. Spotting dark, crackling energy over a distant tower. Meanwhile, a blonde-haired student frantically rushes up a dark staircase, bursting out from a hidden passage in a panic. She pauses to catch her breath, her heart pounding, determined to find her brother and report when a voice stops her cold. Miria peeks around the corner, her face pale with fear. For standing before her is the wolf-eared instructor Lidman. A sinister grin spreads across his face, confirming their worst fears. Elsewhere, Jin steps into a dark, high-tech corridor, his expression hardening as he takes in the scene. Before him is a massive, pulsating red core wired into the lab, a grotesque organ that seems almost alive. He wonders if this is another of Kagura's creations, quickly accessing a nearby terminal for answers. Inside a hidden compartment, he finds a message cube and a nanomachine injector. Hoping the cube holds the key to this mystery, a hologram flickers to life, revealing a familiar scientist, who explains this lab is close to where Jin first awoke. This scientist reveals he was working on a special machine here, and a part of its function is sealed within the nanomachines. This scientist's hologram proudly reveals he knows the machine's true function, identifying it as a teleportation device, which leaves Jin stunned. He can barely comprehend the impossible revelation. His mind flashes back to the chamber filled with caged corruptors, then to the grotesque, pulsating core powering the entire lab, all those monsters contained and just waiting. While the ornate clock on the wall marks an unknown countdown, its complex face hiding a much deeper purpose. At the terminal, Jin stares at the core as the pieces click into place, his expression hardening with the terrible truth. This technology was an ancient, unfinished project from 100 million years ago, and now he connects it to the corruptor attacks in the capital, realizing this machine is exactly how they all arrived. This hologram confirms his theory, linking the lab to the monsters, and showing the completed device in its terrifying, operational state. Jin notices something is terribly wrong with the device. This pulsating red heart seems completely different now, as the grand clock on the wall begins to activate. Suddenly, the core erupts in a blinding flash of red light, forcing Jin to shield his eyes from the intense blast. This surge of energy awakens the caged corruptors, their monstrous forms stirring with newfound rage. Beams of dark power burst from the ground, signaling chaos. And outside, Miria's brother already senses the emergency. His face hardens as he looks toward the sky, witnessing the worst-case scenario as monsters descend. Meanwhile, Miria questions Lidman's unnerving silence, but he just gives her a chilling, knowing smile. In another hall, a noble girl confronts Gita, accusing him directly, and the wolf-eared instructor calmly admits she is right. Miria demands to know what he means by too late. A masked figure declares their plan begins today, and the headmaster admits their meddling has forced his hand. His eyes narrow with cold, calculated intent. Recalling the new teacher he is marked as a major threat, he knew Jin was trouble from the very beginning. Realizing he has already found the secret passage below, this headmaster decides to eliminate this problem immediately, but Miria stands her ground, readying a blast of energy. He scoffs at her defiance, boasting of a new power he has acquired, revealing two students holding a strange, glowing urn. This bizarre sight leaves Miria completely stunned, as the headmaster presents this as his ultimate weapon, yet a confident smirk spreads across Miria's face, while elsewhere a girl with pointed ears sighs in relief. A cat-eared student declares victory over the fallen instructor, but Miria appears, demanding to know why they are here. This student points to the chaos outside, insisting they need Jin's help. Her rabbit-eared friend explains she saw Jin come this way, nervously introducing herself as Kudo Plusha, a new student. Plusha worries about attacking a teacher, but her friend is unconcerned, even suggesting they will just blame the country bumpkin for everything. Suddenly, footsteps echo from the hidden passage, catching the cat-eared girl's immediate attention. Jin emerges from the darkness, asking what happened, and the student grabs him, warning of the danger he already knows about. His face is grim as he reveals every corruptor from the lab has escaped, a revelation that leaves Miria frozen in absolute horror. With no time to waste, Jin leads the three of them rushing outside, only to find the entire city engulfed in flames. Citizens flee in terror as corruptors rampage through the streets, and a colossal foot smashes down, heralding a much larger threat. A giant golem-like monster now towers over the entire city, joined by another beast with a horrifying, tentacled face. This sheer scale of the invasion is overwhelming, leaving Miria to realize the capital itself is under attack. Jin grits his teeth, regretting not destroying the machine sooner, when the cat-eared student points to an even greater danger. High above the city, a corruptor gathers immense energy, preparing to unleash a devastating blast from its maw, its attack aimed squarely at the royal castle. This girls watch helplessly, knowing the royal family is in its path, but Jin declares he will fix this mistake, readying the nanomachine injector. This device grants him a simplified version of the teleportation function, a power the scientist warns can only be used once a day. A massive dragon corruptor unleashes a fiery blast, its attack slamming directly into the academy tower. Nearby, Miria and the others discover a glowing blue crystal, while her brother leaps through the sky, dodging the chaos, and Jin activates the teleportation device ready to jump.